So this will get a lot of us musicians talking and leaving, our opinions in the comments section. So this would be a top 10 most influential bands as a musician or as a guitar player. I thought this would be a good thing to share with you guys. And I got chicken ready to go, so this will be cool. So I can't really put these in any particular order because they're all equally important as far as me being a songwriter and just having those inspirations as a death metal musician, thrash metal musician. And the list that I have, like in the order that I have it, I mean, these can all be interchangeable. They can go either way. But like at the top of my list would definitely be Slayer. I mean, I wouldn't be the guitar player that I am without Slayer. I mean, that pretty much paved the way for me. Besides hearing, Hammer Smash Face when I saw Ace Ventura, that's what really got me. That was like my first taste of just the really, really aggressive metal, and that made me want to, take up playing guitar on top of, my dad being in the band and like playing bass and watching my Uncle Frank shred on the guitar. My Uncle Frank was incredible. He played just like Jimi Hendrix. He had the guitar set up exact same way. He would guitar solo, he put the pick in his mouth, and you know what, he's got a YouTube channel, and he doesn't get much attention on there from he doesn't have that much of a following, but you definitely got to check him out. He got a great voice and the guy can play incredible. Yeah, definitely I'll leave a link in the description for you guys so you can check out my Uncle Frank. He's a freaking badass musician. So back to the topic here. Yeah, like I was saying, Slayer is way up there as far as like how I write today, stuff that I've written in the past. You hear a lot of Slayer influence on the stuff that I write. Sepultura, same thing, early Sepultura, those Schizophrenia, Beneath the Remains, Arise, like that era right there, those 3 albums. There's a lot of Sepultura influence too in my songwriting. Got me to where I am today. So I definitely owe Slayer and Sepultura big time. Cannibal Corpse is huge. There's a lot of Cannibal Corpse sprinkled in, like all the stuff that I've come up with over the years too. Like as far as the hammer-on pull-offs, the trilling, using the thirds, the first and fourth finger. Sorry, I gotta keep taking breaks, guys, because I gotta eat and that chicken's is so damn good. But let me get back to this shit. Deeds of Flesh. These guys right here. Big inspiration on the way I write. Like a lot of those those kinds of riffs. I do a lot of that stuff in my writing too. I've gotten into Deeds of Flesh hardcore when the guy that used to live in this area that I jammed with back in the early 2000s, he introduced me to Deeds of Flesh, and been a big part of my songwriting ever since. And still to this day, I'm sprinkling a lot of Deeds of Flesh influence in my stuff. And then this is probably the biggest influence in the way I write, because this is the band that I wanted to be. This is exactly what I wanted. If I was going to form a death metal band, it was going to be early 2000s era of Origin, like Informus. That was exactly that record. Those vocals, those blast beats, that double bass, those riffs, like the chunkiness, the gallops, and just the blazing speed of that album, just how pissed off and aggressive that album is. That's exactly what I wanted to do. And I've had the conversation with Paul Ryan a couple times. I've told him, I'm like, dude, you guys are the band that I didn't create. You guys did it first. So yeah, Origin for sure. One of my biggest influences by far. As far as some of the other influences that I've had throughout the years, especially my early years, is my songwriting. Sinister from Holland. Been listening to Sinister since I was probably 12 years old when I first saw the album Hate. When I saw that in the record store, I just can remember how excited I was when I saw that up on the, like above all the CDs, it was up there. You had all the other CDs where you flip through them, but it was up on like the main shelf area where they kind of had like their highlight reel of CDs, stuff that they're trying to sell, and that one was right there looking at me. I remember reading about it in Metal Maniacs and seeing that cover, and then sure enough I saw it up there, and man, my face just lit up like, holy shit, Sinister, I'm buying this. But I had to convince my my parents to get it for me, because they never liked the cover art or some of the song titles and stuff back then, just kind of what was portrayed on those album covers. I'm sure all you guys can relate to that too, when you were a 10, 12-year-old trying to convince your parents to buy you just the nastiest, goriest covers you could imagine, just song titles that were just disgusting. But we all turned out okay. We love it for the music. We're not going to go act on any of this kind of stuff. We're not going to bring it to real life. But yeah, those were the days. That was Sinister was another big influence for sure. And if you guys never checked them out, Sinister's badass. Definitely give them a listen. Eternal. These two could actually be partners in crime for as far as like taking slam or slow parts and really, really doing them well. Would be Eternal Suffering and Suffocation. Even with the Suffocation, like the down up down up down up string skipping, I take a lot of that from Suffocation. That band, like that kind of shit. I get a lot of that from Suffocation. Eternal Suffering, if you guys never checked them out, they were short-lived. They did, I think they did a short EP, and then they did like a full-length album, and maybe did a re-release of some early demo tracks, and then some newer songs that they were working on to make into a full-length album, and just never got there. They ended up splitting up. But that was a band, they were a slam death metal band back in the early 2000s, and they did it well. They did it real well. I think I've mentioned it a couple times in the past to check out Eternal Suffering if you guys never heard them. It's just, they're a fun band to get into too. Like, it's fun slam. There's a lot of slam out there that just I can't get into. I could never really get into too much slam for that matter anyway, but a lot of the slam that's out there, when I hear it, it just sounds like rap or hip hop, like the way they do the riffs, and it just turns me off. I think it sounds shitty. So I could never really get into slam for that reason. But this band does it well. It doesn't sound gay when they do their slam riffs, for lack of a better word. Yeah, because some of the riffs out there are they're just stupid. Like some of the slam riffs I hear are just like, man, turn it off. So yeah, definitely check out Eternal Suffering. They got the drummer that was in the band too, just really, really fun and interesting to listen to, where he would do his snare hits, just the hooks and the catchiness behind his playing. Never heard anybody quite like them, so check them out. Again, I'm going to say it a million times, check out Eternal Suffering. Go on YouTube, check out Eternal Suffering. Badass. Drowning in Tragedy. Love it. And I mentioned Suffocation, Fear Factory, another really, really big influence. A lot of the types of gallops or the types of picking combinations that they do. Demanufacture, that was a very influential record. Not only my songwriting, but other bands that we all listen to this day. Pretty much after Demanufacture, when that album came out, you just started hearing that in just all kinds of bands. Like even it was getting into like metalcore, it was getting into the deathcore. It got into it. It inspired a lot of bands, and yeah, they're innovators. They're not only innovators of that kind of writing and that kind of like picking style, but also too with Burton incorporating the melodic choruses from Soul of a New Machine when that came out back in '91. That's still a crushing record to this day, but it never really got the credit that it deserved. Unfortunately, the nu metal bands and stuff, bands that were making that sound like cringeworthy, they were the ones that were getting credit for that. And unfortunately, I think Soul of a New Machine and Burton's vocals back then, it didn't get the recognition that it deserved. But Fear Factory definitely another big inspiration. And then last but not least is a band that I've mentioned a couple times. They're not together anymore, but this is a band from Belgium. They were called Prejudice. The way that I discovered them was Eric from Deeds of Flesh, at the time when he was still alive, or when you'd see pictures of him playing live, he always had a Prejudice shirt on, and I wanted to check those guys out. I'm like, man, I want to know who this band's all about, because obviously if Eric's wearing the shirt, I love Deeds of Flesh, I love Eric's playing, I love all their songwriting. This has got to be a pretty killer band, and sure enough it was. The technicality, some of the hammer-ons, just like they do a lot of progressive style death metal, and a lot of crazy gallops, like some super fast gallops, super fast down picking. If you guys can find Dominion of Chaos out there, I don't know if it's available. I haven't really searched for it or anything, because I've had it for years. I've had it ever since it came out. Played the shit out of it, still do to this day. Just a bone crushing record. But check it out if you guys can find it. It's really, really badass stuff. Unfortunately, that band's not together anymore. I think they disbanded in '09 or 2010 or something like that when they came out. It was Megalomaniac. What was the album called? Megalomaniac Infest or something like that. I didn't pick that album up, but Dominion of Chaos was definitely one of the most crushing records they ever came out with. So yeah, if you guys can find it, definitely check it out. So that's going to wrap it up for the list. I just banged out the 10 most influential bands. I gotta get back to my chicken. I'm hungry. So again, I appreciate you guys watching the video, and leave a comment down below. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed this video. And let's share our influences together in the comment section. I want to see what your guys' lists are. So I appreciate you guys watching. Take it easy.